we're joined now by Circle Pines City Council member Matt Percy. Welcome in.
Thank you for having me.
And looking for your election for your third term on City Council. And you were saying that it's kind of hard to believe. It seems like just yesterday you were running for the first time, you said.
Yeah, the years, they fly by very fast.
And it's a small city, and it's a tight-knit city, I think, in a lot of regards. But there is going to be a little bit of a change with City Council. There's going to be a new member coming in, and of course working with the mayor and working as a group. There's a lot of opportunities to continue the good work. So is there any opportunities for new avenues or new directions or anything new that folks in the city may not be aware of?
So the big theme for Circle Pines the last few years has really been steady on the course. Obviously, we've got a lot of different projects going on, particularly our street rebuilding infrastructure program. We're going to continue to do that, so people who are familiar with that and have benefited from that or seen their neighbors benefit from it, they can expect to see that for the next several years. And in terms of how we manage our parks and on our public safety department and everything, I don't see any immediate changes to those. We've got very good work going on in both of those areas. So I think that's going to be relatively unchanged. One thing that we would like to do is try to increase trail systems if we can, try to put some more focus on that. We've been talking to Anoka County about the trail that would connect from Lino Lakes down to Shoreview. That was in our bonding bill a few years ago and unfortunately got vetoed. So we'd like to try to restart those discussions. And then I think probably another thing that we're going to continue to work on or maybe build upon would be water quality within Golden Lake. And anyone who drives up and down Lake Drive and has seen the construction going on there close to the road, they know that we're putting in an iron enhanced sand filter, which will filter phosphorus out of the water before it gets into Golden Lake. So that kind of takes care of the problem of pollutants going into the lake, but we still have some work to do with that stuff that's already in the lake right now. And so we're continuing to look at options there. So there should be some new activities in that area.
A city like this, not the only city in the metro, perhaps, with some of these issues where bound by geography, surrounded by cities, some larger, some smaller, bound by federal money for interstate highways or state roads or county roads. And then you brought up this bonding bill that the city, as I understand it, always is trying to keep its stuff in order so that when an opportunity for improvements that the state can pay for comes about, that the city's ready to go and there's no work needs to be done, but then the state stalls or whatever. Is that frustrating? Does that offer any other challenges besides the projects you mentioned? Are there other factors, geography like I mentioned or anything like that, that limit what the city can do? And is that frustrating, or are you always looking for new ways to try to?
Well, I mean, there can be some frustration. You look at surrounding communities like Blaine or Lino Lakes that are continually growing. They're adding new houses and so on, or commercial districts. We can't do that in Circle Pines because we're out of space. So our population is about where it's going to be. We're not going to grow anymore, being fully built out. So that limits our ability to increase our tax base. On the other hand, it makes it very easy for us to forecast into the future. We know what we're going to be working with in terms of the benefits that we have to provide to our citizens and how much that's going to cost in general. So yeah, it presents challenges, but it also presents a little bit of stability too, which is really nice.
Not going to have dramatic increases in population year on year or census to census. I know Member Goldberg has been working really hard on getting the census effort out, but that is important in counting every member of the population as accurately as possible is kind of emblematic of counting everything that the city has to offer so that these projects are nailed down and can happen. Is accounting of all the resources, whether it is Golden Lake and the work done there or the neighborhood improvements or things like that, is that really what the city can focus on, is saying we will have everything we need and all the information we need accurate so that we can make these changes when the opportunity arises?
Yeah, and we're fortunate because we've got really great city staff and they do a great job of tracking and inventorying that stuff for us. But yeah, you mentioned the population. Obviously that's going to be a huge thing for us with the census. I know that one of the big concerns for us is that we're trying to make sure that we record our population being over 5,000. If we can be over 5,000, we can get additional resources to help additional state funding that will help us for our street reconstruction program, and that helps to lessen the burden on taxpayers. And so we're driving very hard towards that. So the message I would send to people out there is that if they want to save some money, make sure they get counted, because we're very close at this point. We just need to make sure we get over that hump.
Right. And all of the above here, when people approach you as a city council member, or if they take the steps to show up at a council meeting and maybe ask a question or speak at a public hearing or just on the street or at the grocery store or whatever the case may be. Having all that information, do people understand that this is how it operates? And yes, we're trying to maintain all of these things that you enjoy, all these amenities that you enjoy as a resident. And we can only control so much, and making sure it's all counted. Do the residents understand that when they raise a concern for you all to address?
So I would say that the average citizen probably doesn't think about it too much on a day-to-day basis. They really start to think about it when I come to their door and start talking to them about it, or run into them in a public forum like what you're talking about. When you explain it in in everyday terms about how we have high quality of life, it costs money, I think people generally tend to understand that. They know it's important that they have good roads, that they have good police and fire, and those things aren't cheap, and so it is very important that they understand that. Most people don't think about it all the time, but when you start talking to them, it does tend to click very quickly.
Are you hearing anything that you haven't mentioned from them specifically about what they would like to see, or specific questions they might have that you hope that maybe can be addressed in the near term for you as a body, as a city council?
Yeah, so some of the feedback that I've been getting this summer and fall talking to folks is more on the local level. So for example, in the southern end of our city, in the Indian Hills neighborhood, they've got a park there that's been there for about 30 years. People in that area would like to see some improvements made to that. And other people are talking about other very specific things, usually to their neighborhood in general. Once in a while I'll have somebody say, well, when's my street going to get rebuilt, like my neighbor across the way, and that sort of thing. But those are kind of the bread and butter issues that they're talking about. I've had some people mention property taxes to me too. Property taxes are higher in Circle Pines than they are in surrounding communities, and that's because we don't have a very big commercial tax base. So it's always important that we keep an eye on that and try to explain to people what they're getting for the money that they're spending.
Are they concerned also when it comes to that specific issue that there's levies on tax and stuff added with the school district sometimes, or even on a county level? I think there's been some tax hikes in times past. It's worth explaining to them, or is it a process to explain to them that this is why we have to do this, as you just mentioned, because we don't have this and this, and these are amenities you need?
Oh yeah, it's very important, and it's also important, like you said, to try to delineate where the taxes are coming from. The city and the school board and the county obviously are three big components, and then there's some other stuff thrown in there too. I've had several people who brought up the taxes. They immediately jumped to the school levy that was passed last year for Centennial School District, and that was a big part of it. I know my taxes went up quite a bit because of that, but I've got two sons who are going to Centennial High School right now, and I have had nothing but grand experiences with the entire school district. Very happy with how things have gone. And I want to make sure that those opportunities are available for other families as they're moving into our community as well. And I think it strengthens our community as a whole.
As we're in the midst of this election season, you've had, I think, more than one, at least, candidate for the open county board seat, the District 6 seat, come and speak before City Council, and we've watched some of that in the meetings. And there's been a dialogue. It's been more than just them standing up and trying to give us a stump speech of some kind, and then you say, okay, thank you. I saw some dialogue there. What is that like, looking at that opportunity on the county board level? There's an opening there. There will be a new person in that seat. But looking at that, and then also looking at working with the county as a whole from a city level, are there more opportunities to work with Anoka County to help the people directly in or at least around Circle Pines?
Yeah, there's a bunch of opportunities there, and I think the most obvious one that people would recognize right now would be the county library that just reopened in Circle Pines, which is a fantastic building, and if some people haven't had a chance to see that, I strongly encourage them to go and check that out. We're so very happy that we have the library there, and they've done a tremendous job rebuilding it and making it a great asset for the community. So that was a great partnership between us and the county. Beyond that, obviously you're looking at county roads like Lake Drive and the interchange with Lexington, and trying to make sure that we've got good input and work with engineers on any improvements that they're looking at for those areas. The trail system that I mentioned before, the regional trail, as well as additional trails that they might be able to put in along Lake Drive, those would be other opportunities for us to work with them.
So status quo, in a way, is in maintaining that and always looking to improve. That helps with the stability on the city council and in the mayor's seat. It's the same group of people, relatively speaking, moving forward, and that helps maintain that, and that helps drive momentum towards these goals that may be long-term and may involve a lot of inner workings.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, if you've got a long-term working relationship with somebody, it's going to be a lot more effective going forward.
Speaking of going forward, let's look forward 20 years. What do you think? Is there going to be any major change? What do you see the city looking like operating wise, or just the makeup of the city, or the different kind of industry, or anything in the city in 20 years' time?
Okay. Well, there's a number of areas that I'd like to see within 20 years. Obviously, I'd like to see better water quality in Golden Lake. It's a tremendous area that is a resource for everyone in our community. I want to see more kids fishing out there and swimming in that water and not having to worry about weeds everywhere. So that's one area. I'd also like to see better interconnectivity with our surrounding communities through the trail system. I think we have a tremendous opportunity there. I'd like to, and I think we will, get to the point where we have, we're in maintenance mode for our roads. So we're not tearing up people's houses every couple of years, and instead we're just going through and maintaining what we've got and making sure that we get the most bang for our buck on those roads and make them last as long as possible. In addition to that, once we get to that point and we've actually paid down our street debt that we've been accumulating for the last few years, I'd like to see that come off the tax rolls and help to improve people's property taxes.
Okay. Matt Percy, thank you for coming by today and discussing some of this with us, and good luck as you move forward into the third term on City Council.
All right, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You got it.